But it's gone now. I'm back into a normal sleeper schedule, which is nice. And it's crazy how I was talking to my friend about it on the second day, probably around hour 36. I went to go get some food because I couldn't cook for myself, so I went to go pick up some food. I'm just driving, and it felt like this weird, I said it to him, sad nirvana, where like I was really aware of my life. Like, it's my hometown I'm in, so like a lot of nostalgia, but also like everything's looked kind of surreal and was like, this is life, I'm living it. One day this view will be different, I will be gone, I will be dust. This weirder, like, will I even get to observe this in the next stage? Is there the reincarnation path or whatever that? And like this weird, I am just this, and I'm driving, so it's like I'm this vessel driving and experiencing this, all of this as I'm picking up my fast food. And just this, but I'm like it's about my death and all this kind of like weird. And I didn't feel bad. I was kind of really accepting of it, but it was this weird. Yeah, it's just life, man. That's this weird. You're feeling weird. You're not sleeping, but whatever, man. The worst that happens, you're dead. So whatever. Enjoy it.
I wonder if sleep would drive you to that point, or the lack thereof, of having those thoughts, and because I think that happens quite often. That existential
for sure
that people have, where you take a step back in perspective and go, whoa, I'm this body, I'm literally just meat, and I'm getting older, and it's nothing's turning around. The clock doesn't stop, and the clock doesn't go backwards. You can't turn it back at all. And you kind of have to look at your life and think, well, all of that has already happened, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the future, but all I know that is I'm not going to be here one day.
Yeah. One of my favorite, I don't know if it's thought-provoking, but it is thought-provoking, I guess, but like I get the thought every once in a while, like it's kind of cool that not only your ideas of happiness, sadness, anger, maybe the emotions you hear about but you haven't experienced yet, everything ever that is in existence has been only thought of, like how you view anything has only been thought of by you. So like someone else might have experienced it. Obviously, I have someone else experiences differently, but the idea to actually realize what I think is happiness, or what I think is happiness or sadness, or my own, I can only relate it to what I think. And so like happy, it's like what's blue is blue, right? But then on the emotional spectrum, like the best, I can only compare the best moment of my life to the best moment I've ever had, or I can kind of imagine what would be better, but like at the same time, it's the imaginations I'm having about things can only be built upon my own experience. So it's that weird, I guess that's what everyone says, the best thing to get in life is experiences, because then you can build a better like feeling of the world around you. But it's a cool feeling to be like, oh, the fear of death, well, that everyone has it.
I think you cut out. I'm sure you're spitting gold. I can't hear you though. Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I saw internet connection unstable. So
I missed the last bit. I'm sure it was gold though.
It was the same. There's the same idea, just building on top of each other. Summarize it was what I tried to do.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that comes from? Where do you think I don't know, so I'm reading a book right now called The Language Instinct, and Steve Pinker talks about our ability to understand experience isn't tied directly to our linguistic ability. So there's Mentalese, which is the way that we think, and the way that we express ourselves might be in a language. So I talk to you in English, but the thoughts that we have, the consciousness that we have, isn't necessarily a linguistic dialogue. It's something that transcends language. And so I wonder how deep that would go if we didn't have the ability to articulate ourselves with language, how deep our thoughts would actually get, whether we would experience existential drought, or what the closest thing that experiences consciousness to us would be that would also experience that feeling of, whoa, I'm going to die one day, or whoa, I'm me, and actually take that as an intrinsic feeling rather than a expression of language.
Mhm. Well, I think maybe I'm saying this wrong off Pinker, but I agree that language isn't used. You could say language is used to try and describe the feeling. So obviously the feelings come first. And I think the ability to create a connection without words and just through like, I mean, what is it? 80% of language is movement and stuff, or body language. So, ooh. So obviously, I don't think you need language, and obviously, you can share a moment with someone who doesn't speak your language and you don't speak theirs. And I think English allows us to try and tell someone else. And if you're really good at being able to feel the feelings from words, which sometimes you can, sometimes you read a passage and you feel it, right? But that's what art is, right? So I think language is used to describe, and it can sometimes trigger the feelings, hopefully. I mean, that would be the goal of a great author or whatever, or artist in some sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's the feelings is what matters and how you can define it, right? And the better logically you are, you might be able to explain step by step that I fear death. Step one, I fear death. Step two, why do I fear death? Step three, how does that make me feel? Step four, it makes me feel scared. Step five also makes me feel happy that everything I does. So like you could like define it and try and define all the feelings you're feeling. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, and like you said, sometimes you can't. I'm still. I guess he's a linguist, so he might know more on it. But I'm a firm believer. If you take the time, you could always describe everything, but it might be a lot harder.